She didn't leave him because she stopped loving him. She left because he wasn't successful yet. That night, he lost the girl he loved and gained the fire that would turn him into a hero. This is not a breakup story. This is the story of how heartbreak creates legends. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Dive into what really happened. She left him, not because she stopped loving him, but because he wasn't the man she dreamed he could be. Those words might seem simple, but for John, they carried the weight of a lifetime. That night was the darkest, most painful moment he had ever faced. The girl he loved more than anything in the world, the one he imagined spending his entire life with, walked away from him. With her departure, it felt like she took his heart and every ounce of hope he had for the future. But what Sarah didn't realize was that this heartbreak was not the end of John's story. It was, in fact, just the beginning. A painful beginning that would push him to rise from the ashes and become the hero he was always meant to be. John was an ordinary young man from a small town, living a life that many would call average. He didn't come from a wealthy family or have any special advantages. What he did have, though, was something far more valuable: big dreams and a heart full of ambition. Alongside that ambition was his love for Sarah, a love so pure and strong that it seemed unbreakable. Since the moment they met, John and Sarah had shared more than just a relationship. They shared promises of building a future together, dreams of success, and countless moments filled with laughter, hope, and love. To John, Sarah was his light in the darkness. She was the reason he kept pushing forward, even when times were tough. He believed, with all his heart, that one day he would rise above the struggles that surrounded him. He would become the successful man Sarah deserved, a man who could give her everything she ever wanted. Together, they would leave behind the hardships of their small town and create a life full of joy and security. But life doesn't follow a perfect script. Instead, it tests us in ways we never expect. The very foundation of their love, their shared dreams and hopes, was about to face the harshest challenge of all. And in that moment, John's world would shatter, forcing him to confront his deepest fears and question everything he thought he knew about love, success, and himself. John's life wasn't easy. Far from it. He didn't come from a wealthy family or a privileged background. His family struggled just to make ends meet, and every day felt like a battle against time and circumstance. While many of his peers seemed to glide through life effortlessly, John was constantly hustling, working multiple jobs, sometimes well into the night, just to save enough money for college and to build a better future for himself. But despite all his hard work, success was slow to come. It felt like the world was moving at a pace he couldn't match. Opportunities slipped away, bills piled up, and the pressure to provide and prove himself weighed heavily on his young shoulders. Each day was a reminder that dreams, no matter how big, don't always come easy. Sarah, his girlfriend and once the shining light in his life, began to see things differently. She had once believed in the future they dreamed about together, the stable home, the comfortable life, the security they both longed for. But as time went by, those dreams started to fade into uncertainty. The late nights, the stress, the endless struggle, it was taking a toll not just on John but on their relationship too. Sarah wanted more than just promises and hope. She wanted stability, a sense of security that John simply couldn't give her yet. It wasn't that she didn't love him, she did deeply. But love alone wasn't enough to ease the fear of an unstable future. The constant sacrifices, the broken plans, and the growing gap between where they were and where they wanted to be began to create a divide. One evening, after a heated argument filled with frustration and fear of the unknown, Sarah made the hardest decision of her life. With tears in her eyes, she left. She walked away not because she stopped loving John, but because she needed to protect herself from the pain of waiting for a future that seemed so far away. For John, the impact was devastating. His heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. The love of his life was gone, and with her went his sense of hope and certainty. He was left standing alone in the ruins of his dreams, facing the harsh reality that sometimes, love isn't enough to overcome the weight of life's struggles. For many, heartbreak can be the final chapter, the end of the story. But for John, it became the spark that lit a fire inside him. The pain he felt was overwhelming, but instead of letting it consume him, John chose to channel it into something powerful. He made a silent, unbreakable promise to himself. He would become the man Sarah had once believed he could be, not just for her but for himself. From that moment on, John threw himself into his work with unmatched determination. He worked longer hours than ever before, sacrificing sleep, comfort, and time with friends and family. There were nights when exhaustion weighed heavily on him, but he refused to stop. Every setback, every disappointment, became fuel to keep pushing forward. John knew that hard work alone wouldn't be enough. He needed to grow, mentally, emotionally, and professionally. So he devoured books about success, leadership, and self-improvement. He learned new skills to improve his career prospects and sought out mentors and friends who challenged him to think bigger and act smarter. The journey wasn't easy. It was lonely at times. There were moments when doubt crept in, when the memories of Sarah and their broken dreams haunted him. But John held on to a vision of a better future, one where he could stand tall and proud. With each small victory, whether a promotion at work, a new skill mastered, or a personal goal achieved, his confidence grew stronger. Years passed. The uncertain young man who had once been broken by love and life's challenges transformed into a confident, strong, and successful individual. John didn't just chase money or fame. He built a reputation based on his integrity, kindness, and relentless spirit. People began to notice the change, not just in his career but in the way he carried himself. He became a symbol of resilience, a living proof that heartbreak and hardship don't have to define your life. Instead, they can be the very things that shape you into the hero of your own story. Then one day, as if life had its own plans, fate brought Sarah back into John's world. It wasn't a dramatic reunion like in the movies. No grand gestures or carefully orchestrated moments. It happened quietly, almost by accident, in a small local coffee shop. John was sitting alone, sipping his coffee after a long day, when he looked up and saw her standing there. Sarah recognized him immediately. But the boy she had left years ago was gone. Before her stood a man transformed, tall, confident, and calm. There was a new peace in his eyes, a strength that hadn't been there before. The years of struggle, heartbreak, and relentless effort had shaped him into someone truly remarkable. Their eyes met, and for a moment neither spoke. The silence was heavy with memories, the laughter, the pain, the dreams that once filled their hearts. But this time it wasn't awkward or painful. It was filled with something deeper. Understanding. Sarah's eyes held a mix of emotions: surprise at how much John had changed, regret for the pain their parting had caused, and a faint glimmer of hope for the future, whatever that might look like. They sat down and began to talk. First about the past, the things that had gone wrong, and the pain they had both felt. John listened as Sarah shared her fears and doubts, and he shared his journey of growth and transformation. There was no blame, no anger, just honest conversation between two people who had been shaped by their shared history. What was most remarkable was John's reaction. He didn't hold grudges or express bitterness. Instead, he thanked Sarah. He told her that, although losing her had been the hardest thing he'd ever experienced, it was also the thing that made him stronger. That heartbreak pushed him to become the man he always wanted to be. Their story wasn't about rekindling a romance or trying to go back to what was lost. It was about two souls who had changed, grown, and shaped each other's lives in ways they never could have imagined. They parted that day with respect, gratitude, and a quiet understanding that some connections last forever. Not because they stay together, but because they help us become who we are meant to be. John's story teaches us an important truth. Sometimes, the greatest love stories aren't about the classic happily ever after moments we see in movies or hear in fairy tales. Instead, they are about growth, resilience, and the courage to become the hero of your own life. Heartbreak doesn't have to be the end of your story. It doesn't have to break you down or leave you feeling lost and hopeless. If anything, heartbreak can be the very thing that builds you up, that shapes you into a stronger, wiser, and more determined version of yourself. John's journey from pain to power is proof that even in our darkest moments, there is a spark waiting to ignite. When life knocks you down, you have a choice. You can stay down or you can rise. You can let the pain define you or you can let it refine you. If you're watching this video right now and going through a difficult time, whether it's heartbreak, failure, loss, or any challenge that feels overwhelming, remember John's journey. Your hardest moments don't have to be your last moments. They can be the beginning of something incredible. Every obstacle you face is an opportunity in disguise. Every tear, every struggle, every lonely night can become the fuel that pushes you forward. Growth often happens through pain, and resilience is born when you refuse to give up. You don't have to wait for someone else to save you. You are your own hero. The strength to rebuild, to heal, and to succeed lies within you. It might take time, effort, and patience, but you have what it takes. So rise, grow, become the hero of your own story. Believe in yourself even when it feels impossible, because the best chapters in your life might still be unwritten. Call to action for YouTube. If John's story inspired you, please like, share, and subscribe for more powerful real-life stories that uplift and motivate. We'd love to hear from you. Tell us in the comments. Have you ever turned heartbreak into your strength? Your story might inspire someone else who needs to hear this message today.